Good morning. So yes, I'm Bill Wasik. I'm in from Wired magazine, and I have been doing, in addition to the flash mob experiment, which sort of took off, even at the time, sort of took off beyond what I ever could have possibly imagined, and got me very interested in viral things, sort of the way that things spread through the internet. I've also been doing some reporting recently and a lot of thinking about physical crowds. So as Chad says, I obviously come from outside the industry. Part of the reason why I wanted to come here is because I'm really interested in how you guys think about what you do. So please do find me if you're interested in asking me questions or talking to me after my talk or at lunch, because I think I'll learn as much from you as you guys will from me. Let me find my clicker here. So my talk today is called The Connected Crowd, Physical Gatherings in a Digital Age. So, coming from Wired, one way that I think about technology is that it actually keeps us out of physical crowds. I can order everything on Amazon instead of braving the crowds. I can even use GPS to keep me out of traffic. I do not have to see anybody who I do not want to see. And so the question is our technology a crowd killer? You even see it in our language, right? We use the word crowd today. We have these new coinages where crowd is used in this totally virtual way. Crowdsourcing or crowdfunding, the wisdom of crowds. And yet, I would actually argue, and I do argue in these articles that I've written, that we actually live in a golden age of physical crowds. I mean, the physical crowd is even sort of more crucial to the culture than it's ever been. They talked a lot about TED. You should definitely understand that outside the events industry, the impact of TED is enormous. It used to be that you would go to magazines to, talk about the big ideas that informed people and spread and created the culture. These days, it's the TED Talk that, if anything, is the most influential genre of communication out there. You have these mega music festivals that gather, enormous crowds of people that sort of serve as the, focal point for whole, subcultures in the music world. I also had to throw a Comic-Con slide up there. You have these mega conferences that do the same thing. Things like Comic-Con and South by Southwest. And then, on a more serious note, you have, we've had the Arab Spring, Occupy Wall Street, these protest movements where people are, airing their grievances online and in a virtual way. They're coordinating with one another online, and yet they take this very vital physical form. So is our technology a crowd killer? I mean, the way I think about it is it kills the crowd that you have to be in. We don't have to be in crowds anymore. But they enable the crowd that you want to be in. You can use these devices to coordinate with people that you know. You can use them for events or official apps can help bring people together. But we'll talk a little bit more about it. So there are three principles to the connected crowd that I want to talk about. The first one is the connected crowd is always in touch. And what I mean by that is, because of this device in your hand, if you think about it, the crowd forms before it arrives, in the sense that you are able to connect with people who you know, people who share similar interests. And then after the event, you're able to stay in touch. And so, it used to be that when you would come together in a crowd, there was this sort of one moment that you could possibly find other people and communicate with them. That's no longer the case. The second principle, augmented experience. The idea that while you're in the crowd, you have this device and you are able to get more information, either information that's given to you by through an app or what the managers of the event want you to have, or you just seek it out yourself. You're on Twitter, communicating with people. You are Googling things that the speaker's talking about. And then the third principle is semi-open source. And I added the semi because I don't think that you ever want anything to be totally open source if you want to manage people's experiences and make sure that they have a good time. But I think that you do want people to be able to take ownership of their own experience, to feel like that they're not being programmed to the point that they don't have any ability to sort of take on the project as their own. I'm actually going to treat these in reverse order because the sort of open source nature of the flash mob project is, to me, why it was able to take off so well. So I was really inspired by chain email. I'm not sure if I feel like that dates me. You know, we go all the way back to 2003. The real viral phenomena was, you know, you'd get that email and you'd scroll down and you'd see, well, this person forwarded to this person, and I was just amazed to see all of those names. Right? You'd scroll down and you would just see sometimes hundreds of names on some of these long emails, and I started thinking about those people as a group, right? Here you have this assembled group of people, and they might not, you know, the people at the very top have no idea who the people at the very bottom are, and yet they are connected. And so my idea was, and my arrow seems to have shifted in the slide, but the idea was, could you take that kind of a virtual crowd, right? The virtual crowd that's created by sending emails from, you know, groups of people to groups of people to groups of people, and make that group physical. So the idea was try to craft a message that spreads. So as Chad said, I created this anonymous email account called the Mob Project, subject mob number 1, and I forwarded this email to myself, and then I forwarded it from my own account to 60 people I knew. So the idea was, it began with my friends, but they didn't know that I was responsible for it. I wanted them to think that I was just on some really cool email list that they didn't know about. And the idea was, please forward this to other people you know who might like to join. The anonymity on some level was designed to make it more viral, because I didn't want people asking, well, who is this Bill and what is his intention in bringing these people together? I wanted it to be a project that people created together. So, again, I feel like the success of the Flash Mob project is you sort of allow the attendees to be co-owners. So on the second principle, augmented experience, there's this sociologist named Nathan Jurgensen at the University of Maryland, and he has coined the phrase digital dualism. And it's a great phrase, and it's essentially a critique of the way that a lot of us talk about online and offline. His point is, we're never online or offline. We're always both. A lot of what we're doing on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, I mean, the vast majority of what we're doing on those sites is we're documenting what's happening in our lives so that our friends can see it. We're having virtual interactions that are sort of spilling over into physical space. We're coordinating with other people. And so, a lot of people talk about how, oh, we need to make sure we spend time offline. And this is a trap, as Chad was talking about my first book. This is something that I write about in the first book that I actually feel like seems a bit dated and wrong to me now that I sort of see this critique, but that, it isn't a matter of carving out space for us to be offline. The fact is that we're always both. To me, the main principle of, let me go back. One of my slides got dropped. The slide that was dropped was some examples of augmented experience. There is gamification is really interesting. There's just sort of supplemental data. There are lots of different things that you can do, but my main point here is that you want to augment experience in a way that adds but never subtracts. Subtracts in the sense of throwing too much noise at people, subtracts in the sense of making some kind of augmented experience mandatory, which I feel like can really kill the experience of a gathering. If you say, well, everybody has to get at their phone and look at it, you want stuff to be available to people, but you don't want it to be mandatory. Finally, always in touch. So I'm going to put up a somewhat less salutary viral email than the one, or viral message than the one that I spread around. So this was from London in August of 2011, and this circulated on a Sunday. Everyone in Edmonton, Enfield, Wood Green, everywhere in North, link up at Enfield Town Station, 4 o'clock sharp. Bring your bollies and your bags, trolleys, cars, vans, hammers, the lot. Link up and cause havoc. Just rob everything. Police can't stop it. Rebroadcast. So this was from the London riots last summer, and BlackBerry Messenger did play this very, very instrumental role in bringing a lot of those riot events together. The initial protest was over a police action, but as the unrest spread through London, the people who were looking to cause havoc were using BlackBerry Messenger to bring people together. And so this was the scene in Enfield where everybody got together, and it was really remarkable. You can even see video of just people zooming in cars and et cetera. There's another sort of great idea that's coming out of current sociological thinking is this idea of social identity, that a crowd sort of takes on an identity in the moment. And technology allows that identity to pre-form. So one of the things that was very scary about the London riots was the fact that unlike typical riot events where you have a crowd and that crowd is often pushed sometimes by police action to a breaking point, here you had people who had coordinated before online, and so at the point that they arrived at the space, they already had this shared sense of purpose, which sounds like a good thing, but was not in this case. And moreover, you try to disperse the crowd, but because they're still connected on social media, they can, they can always sort of come back together. But of course, there's a positive side to this as well, where you can create events where people are pre-organized online in such a way that they arrive at the gathering with a shared sense of purpose. So the lesson here, I would say, is you're channeling a crowd, you're not creating it. The crowd exists before it comes together. It can exist after it disperses. So that's my time. I had to sort of blow through these ideas, but I would love it if any of you wanted to email me, hit me up on Twitter. I'll be in the back after this session, and I'll also be there at lunch. And thank you very much for listening.
So I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
So the whole flash mob phenomenon sparked things that are both, as you showed, great things, fun things, silly things, and bad things. How do you feel about the or would that have happened in any way, or is that kind of because that idea sparked those?
I think it would have happened anyway. What I believe is that people discover for themselves every day the power of these amazing devices that we have in our hands, or in the amazing way that we're all connected. And so on some level, I think the reason why flash mobs have taken off is that people feel like they can take the idea on as their own, and they get this charge of sort of discovering how they can bring their own friends together in this way. And so, I think it's sort of everybody carrying out their own experiments for themselves.
Yeah, and I think as event people, if we can harness that energy of people want to create, people want to get themselves together, it's how do you take advantage of that? So,
yeah, sure.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you all so much.